Is a provincial exemption allowing people with a disability to exercise in a gym with a written instruction for physical therapy from a regulated health professional. Mendez was charged by the health unit during the last lockdown for allowing people to exercise in his facility for medical reasons. Meanwhile, Windsor's Chamber of Commerce says the outlook isn't good, estimating about 16% of small and medium-sized businesses will close.
So for businesses and the business community, it's a massive blow. It is something which is going to be very difficult to be able to deal with.
Back at Aggregate, they're reconfiguring their online shop so those who can still afford to shop can do it safely online. And they're asking the community to remember to shop small.
There's lots of people that don't have that online presence and they shouldn't be looked over either. Poke your head out if you're in a neighborhood Facebook group and ask if there's a small shop option of where you can get something.
Campbell says even spending $20 at a small business can make a big difference. Stacey Janzer, CBC News, Windsor.
People in our area are looking to the frosty outdoors when it comes to meeting fitness resolutions this new year. That's because, as you heard, when these stricter COVID-19 rules take hold tomorrow, indoor fitness facilities will again be closed. At one local running wear shop, staff say they've been seeing a spike in interest since yesterday's announcement. Our Jacob Barker ran over to the running factory on Wyandotte Street to see what you need to get out and get active in the cold.
What do I need to know? Just about staying safe, like running around, especially when, like, you know, it's tough to always find a sidewalk to be on and that kind of thing.
So in this case, given, again, if it's just snowed versus a couple days after, planning your route accordingly and kind of knowing where you're going to be, having at least somewhere that you know is going to be either cleaned, cleared, salted, whatever it is. If you're around your own neighborhood and that kind of thing, just be aware of shiny areas on the cement or sidewalk. Black ice is a big issue, so as long as you're aware of where you're stepping and making sure that it's kind of calculated where you're planting your foot, taking off from. Ready, all right, set, go. Definitely the most important is dressing appropriately for what you're intending to do. So generally, the higher the intensity, the more your body's going to heat up. So the more you're going to want to dress almost as if it's about 5 degrees cooler than what it actually is. So you have a chance to warm up into what you're wearing. So all this stuff is what we call technical or like sweat wicking. So basically, as you sweat, it's going to pull it off the skin to make sure that your skin is staying drier, less chance for chafing, all that fun stuff. A lot of people, even as your kind of summer offerings for t-shirts and tank tops, you can double that up as a base layer for the winter as well. What we want to see next is something more like a thermal or a warmth layer.
That's the top of your body. What about the bottom of your body?
Depending if you are more of a tights person, you like that freedom of mobility and that little bit of a less kind of bulky feeling around the legs, go for it. If you're more of a pants kind of person, because you do want that little bit of extra modesty and prefer more of a jogger style, there's different options based on where your comfort level is. So basically these are rubberized slip-on options that go over the shoe. The running option also has a Velcro attachment over top just to kind of help keep everything solid on the foot while you're moving a little bit quicker as well. These guys here have a little bit of a deeper, harder rubber tread that are meant to dig into those softer, like snowy or more dirt type of surfaces to give you better traction. Final time.
351.
Yeah.
All right, new record?
I think so.
I just went to the end of the block and back. It was slippery. I didn't have the, what are they called?
Nordic grips.
I didn't have the Nordic grips on, which was a mistake. I would suggest getting the Nordic grips. But it feels good. It feels good to be out, to be active.
Love that. Some good advice there. The season of giving may have wrapped up just about a week ago, but community needs are still growing. So far, the Unemployed Help Center has seen a 75% increase in the community's need for their services during the pandemic. Now, with tighter COVID restrictions back in place, that need may rise even higher. The center's CEO says they are preparing for a record-breaking high need for their services.
It's a drive-through, and we have a walk up here where we use a conveyor belt. We don't have a system where people come into our food bank, and it allows people to social distance, feel safe to get their food. And so many of our food banks might have to close again due to, this new variant. It's very, very contagious.
Over the Christmas season, the organization received a number of donations, including from the CBC Windsor's Sounds of the Season fundraiser. Community members helped raise more than $27,000, surpassing the donations collected last year. Money donated supports many local food banks. And a big thanks to all of you who took part in all this to help those who need it the most. It really makes a big difference. To national news now. The federal government and Indigenous leaders have announced a $40 billion agreement. It includes compensation for First Nations individuals harmed by underfunding in the child welfare system. Here's Minister of Indigenous Services, Patty Hajdu.
I'm very pleased to announce that Canada and the parties have reached two significant agreements in principle. One that provides fair and equitable compensation to First Nations children and families harmed by discriminatory underfunding, and the other addressing the long-term reform that's needed for the First Nations Child and Family Services Program.
The deal earmarks $20 billion in compensation for any First Nations children removed from their homes between April 1991 and the end of this March while living on reserve and in the Yukon. The other $20 billion will be spent on reforming the system over a 5-year period. The deal addresses a human rights challenge launched in 2007, a major sticking point in reconciliation efforts. Current and former federal governments spent millions fighting the challenge before announcing the deal. Parties have until March 31st to finalize the agreement, and it still needs to be signed off by the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal and the federal court. An 11-year-old girl from Cody First Nation in Saskatchewan marked the first annual Ribbon Skirt Day at her school today. Isabella Kulak was shamed by a school staff member last December after wearing a traditional ribbon dress for formal day. That attracted national attention and helped lead to a bill before the Senate to declare a National Ribbon Skirt Day. Bonnie Allen has more.
When 11-year-old Isabella Kulak from Cody First Nation put on her traditional ribbon skirt this morning, one she sewed herself, she felt like a superhero, ready for her school's first annual Ribbon Skirt Day.
The ribbon skirt represents to me strength, resilience, and womanhood.
Last winter, Kulak was excited to wear her ribbon skirt to formal day at her Kamsack school. But then an educational assistant made her feel ashamed, saying her outfit didn't match and that she should dress like other girls.
That I could wear something else, like a store-bought dress.
Her great-aunt Judy Pelly shared the story on Facebook, and women around the world donned ribbon skirts in solidarity.
I'm extremely proud of her because she's been a catalyst for change across the world. Her bravery and her resilience has caused a movement across the globe.
I've apologized personally to Bella's parents and to Bella herself.
The director of education was quick to apologize last year, calling it an example of systemic racism and declaring January 4th Ribbon Skirt Day, a day for students to celebrate their culture and uniqueness.
We're going to have a smudge and pray, and it's going to be a good day.
Kulak's mother has also been hired by the school division as an Indigenous community worker.
Actually, I'm working at the school now, and we've started a ribbon skirt class, and we're getting into beading and a drum group, and the sky's the limit, and everything's going great.
Other girls and women across Canada also wore their traditional skirts today, and a Manitoba senator has sponsored a bill to make January 4th a National Ribbon Skirt Day.
It's pretty cool.
The bill has already received second reading in the Senate.
Well, this beautiful little girl, helped change the world.
On this day, Kulak says she feels respected and understood. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan.
Oh, that is so powerful. What a beautiful story. A live look outside there at our Ambassador Bridge. It'll be a cloudy night this evening with a chance of flurries tomorrow, and we'll also get a high of 2 degrees. Ian Black will be here right after the break with your weather forecast. Stay with us. A mixed bag of weather for Windsor, Essex over the next few days. Ian Black is here with our full weather forecast.
Well, hang on to your hats. The wind is really going to start to blow around here. It's already kind of gusty in spots, but at least the temperatures are, not that bad today. It's nice to get out of the chill. Real temperature roller coaster setting up too. I mean, I was looking at the 7-day forecast. It was almost giving me whiplash. So you'll need a scorecard just to keep up with the fast-paced changes over the next several days. I know, it's Tuesday. I'm already looking at the weekend. So we'll talk about that too. Okay, let's take a quick look ahead for Windsor. Look at the wind, not that bad overnight, but before dawn tomorrow, it really starts to pick up. I would not be surprised to see some gusts that might get over 50 and in some cases, over 60. Environment Canada is suggesting perhaps closer to 80 in a few spots. So that's a really windy day. A couple of morning flurries. I just don't see it as being anything consequential in terms of severity. Okay, satellite and radar. I just sit here and I look at this kind of stuff. Windsor's right here. Clouds coming in. There's some snow way off towards the west. We're on the mild side of this system. That low is going to race across something like this. And once the cold front, the trailing cold front comes through tomorrow, instead of the temperatures climbing, they go nowhere. In fact, probably dropping as the afternoon moves along tomorrow. Couple of flurries kicking around. I think the real headline here are the winds, which will really begin to rip tomorrow. As I say, Environment Canada says you might get gusts close to 80. These are sustained winds, up around 35 kilometers an hour. And as I say, gusts that could, at times, get over 60, 70 kilometers per hour. So wind is the real weather headline coming up for tomorrow, okay? The high, too, I think, set early in the morning, and then those temperatures will be dropping as the day moves along, okay? And here's a look at the 7-day forecast, which shows up and down, cold Thursday, Friday, moderating on the weekend, and then right back into the deep freeze early next week. Hang on to your hats. That's your weather.
When we come back, we reported about how the local Humane Society has seen a major influx of rabbits in the last couple of years. However, some other areas are also seeing many being abandoned. So we'll tell you about that right after the break. The U.S. is dealing with an explosive surge in COVID-19 cases after the holidays, with more than 1 million new infections reported just yesterday. President Joe Biden today sought to reassure vaccinated Americans while trying once again to convince the holdouts.
If you're vaccinated and boosted, you are highly protected. You know, be concerned about Omicron, but don't be alarmed. But if you're unvaccinated, you have some reason to be alarmed. Many of you will, you'll experience severe illness in many cases.
Biden also announced that the country has doubled its order for an antiviral pill from Pfizer. The U.S. Drug Agency recently authorized it to help prevent serious illness and death from COVID-19. Canada has yet to approve that pill. Omicron now accounts for 95% of all new cases. Rabbits may look cute and cuddly, but animal rescue organizations are begging people to get better informed before they adopt them as pets. They say people don't realize what's needed to look after them, and shelters in Ontario and Quebec say since the pandemic began, there's been a major increase in rabbits being given up for adoption. Rowan Kennedy has more.
Welcome to Rabbit Rescue.
They may look cute, but these rabbits are part of a worrisome trend.
Rescues full, shelters closed, so people began dumping them outside even more than ever before. And this has been an epidemic, really, for quite some time.
In 2021, the Montreal SPCA saw a 40% increase in rabbits rescued or dropped off as compared to the previous year. This level of abandonment is unprecedented.
They are young. Most of them are less than 1 year old. So they're probably rabbits that people got in the previous months.
Desaulniers says people underestimate the amount of care and space rabbits need. Now, with shelters overflowing with bunnies, many are having to be euthanized. An adoption agency and a group that looks out for rabbit welfare co-wrote a letter to the provincial government asking for greater regulation to stop rabbit selling online.
We're just promoting them as easy to care, non-costly animals that are just perfect for children, when all of that is the totally opposite.
Quebec's Deputy Minister for Animal Welfare answered that letter, saying the trend of abandonment is concerning and that the government will continue its efforts to educate potential rabbit owners, notably around Easter time. But Mosa worries what the government is doing isn't enough.
And there's a lot of these small basement breeders that we find on Kijiji.
Shelters are encouraging people to foster rabbits if possible, but most of all, they're asking for people to learn how to properly take care of the animals before making the commitment. Rowan Kennedy, CBC News, Montreal.
Waiting on the platform for your train to arrive can hardly be called full of excitement. But recently, for some commuters in Istanbul, there was a lot of it. This happened at one of the city's tramway stations. Talk about tunnel vision. A motorist missed a turn on the road and accidentally drove straight onto a track leading to the platforms. Stunned passengers watched something roll into the station, and it definitely didn't look like their ride. Luckily, no one was hurt. That is it for CBC Windsor News. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.